We have a mock draft reaction on this episode of Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. The draft is less than a week away, and Mel Kiper and Field Yates combined to do a 3-round NFL mock draft for ESPN. We will take a look at who Miami selected at 13, 48, 98, break them down as prospects, how they would fit for the Dolphins, and my overall thoughts at the end. We'll start by looking at who went off the board before Miami at pick 13. And I think you're going to see this top 8. If I had to put money on it, honestly, I think this is going to be the top 8 that ultimately goes on draft night. These 4 seem like a lock. These 4 feel like it's going to happen with all the new noise and news we've been hearing about Genti to the Raiders and Armand Membu to the Jets. And it sounds like the Panthers are infatuated with Jalen Walker out of Georgia. So the draft to me starts at number 9 with Colorado almost. And in New Orleans, they took the Colorado quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, and then Tyler Warren at 10, Kelvin Banks at 11, and then Matthew Golden at 12, which is a fascinating situation for Miami because with the need at corner, there was no corners to go off the board in the first 12 selections, which I don't think it has to be quite a surprise. If the board fell this way on draft night, it's going to be Will Johnson with the 13th pick. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and the Dolphins like Jahdae Barrett more, but they need corner, especially after the Jalen Ramsey news, more than anything else at this point. That or defensive line. Will Johnson is clearly the best player on the board out of the defensive linemen and cornerbacks. Field Yates had this pick as they alternated selections in this mock, and he took Michigan corner Will Johnson, which makes all the sense in the world. Before we talk about Johnson as a prospect, I want to make sure you do subscribe to the channel because we will be live for all 3 rounds of the NFL draft and all 3 days of the NFL draft as well. Plus, ESPN Plus charges $120 a year to get that content we're showing you. We do $0. Join the channel today. We do it better than anyone else. And I think this would be the best case scenario for the Miami Dolphins. If you've watched the content here on the channel over the past couple of weeks, you would have known that I have zeroed in on Will Johnson being my clear-cut, no doubt, top guy on my big board for the Dolphins with the 13th pick. Maybe he gets picked ahead of us and we have to pivot. Maybe so. But if he's on the board, it's hard for me to find a scenario where I do not want to take Will Johnson. And for the new people that are watching this video for the first time, I'll explain why. Well, you look at the quarterback room, Jalen Ramsey might not be in this picture for much longer, right? After the news coming out earlier this week about the Dolphins and Ramsey working together on a trade for the future, you already needed a cornerback next to Ramsey. So with him off the roster, the biggest need now is cornerback, and Will Johnson could potentially be your cornerback 1 right away in year 1 and of the future. Field Yates on picking Johnson to Miami, saying that he's one of the best 10 players in this class, has excellent ball skills, instincts, and a 6'2" size that all stand out. The Dolphins have a whole opposite of Jalen Ramsey, making cornerback a pressing need. And yes, Miami must also address the offensive line, but it can do so on day 2. And as I just mentioned by looking at that cornerback depth chart for the Dolphins, now we don't have to worry about getting Johnson opposite of Jalen Ramsey. It's likely to be the face of this cornerback room because it now looks like there will be no Jalen Ramsey. Now, there's a lot to be concerned about with Will Johnson. I'm not going to act like he's a perfect prospect. He is a very solid corner prospect, in my opinion. Remember, he was a projected top 5 pick in this draft going into this past college season before he only played in 6 games, battled hamstring injuries, and kind of checked out at the end of the year. But in 2023, he was the top corner out there and would have been the top corner drafted in the 2024 NFL draft, in my opinion. He was absolutely elite leading that Michigan Wolverine team to a national championship. Is there concern about his speed? Yes, there's rumors about his 40 being a 4.6, 4.61, and his shuttle time being in the 13th percentile, 4.33. But I think he works in Anthony Weaver's system. It's a versatile man-zone hybrid kind of scheme. Will Johnson's got the intangibles, man. He plays the ball, got great instincts, can read the quarterback, especially in zone coverage. I think Will Johnson is the most ideal pick for Miami at 13th overall. Do you agree with me, though? It's obvious that's the guy that I want. Let me know if it's the guy that you want. Is Will Johnson the most ideal pick for the Dolphins at 13? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll end the conversation with Will Johnson here. He might not be the most explosive, but he's got that intangibles. He's got the ability to make plays, read the quarterback, jump in front of these wide receivers on crossing routes or corner routes and intercept the ball, take it to the house. If he's on the board, take him and start running to the podium. I mean, it's just as simple as it is. I'm a Will Johnson guy. I want him. I need him in the Miami Dolphins organization. So let's shift over to the second round pick. At number 48 overall, Mel Kiper made this selection. He had the Dolphins drafting Toledo defensive lineman Darius Alexander, and that might ring off some alarms and go, whoa, deja vu here? Yeah, actually, it is. Mel Kiper, in his final 2-round mock draft that he put out last week, he actually had Miami drafting Jahdae Barron at 13 overall because Will Johnson was off the board, but he had Darius Alexander to the Dolphins at pick 48. So that's now 2 straight times in ESPN's mock drafts that Miami went the corner at 13 and specifically Darius Alexander at 48. Does that kind of ring any alarms? Like, does that tell you that that's the intel that ESPN is hearing, that they're going corner at 13 and they're targeting Darius Alexander in round 2? It makes you think, right? It has to. And that's what I'm kind of thinking here, is that it feels like it's going to go corner, defensive line, round 1, round 2, but specifically Darius Alexander. And we'll talk about him more as a prospect here in just a second. But I got to show some love to the official ticketing partner of Dolphins Today. That's Game Time. Whether you want to go see the Dolphins this upcoming fall or go see an NBA playoff game, an MLB game in your local area, Game Time is the easiest way to get those tickets. And they have got so many great features, killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, where it makes the ticket purchasing life so much easier. Last-minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theaters, everything in between. They've got zone deals, which save you even more money when you choose a section and let Game Time choose your specific seats. They've got all-in pricing. Toggling that feature shows you the total price of your ticket up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Whether you want to go see Chris Brown or Lady Gaga in Miami this summer, or you want to go to a sporting event in your local area, Game Time will have you covered with everything in between. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's go over Darius Alexander here as a prospect here because he was dominant for Toledo in the MAC over the last 2 seasons, having 4 sacks in 23, 3.5 in 2024, but he just gets after the quarterback, man. 37 and 46 pressures over the last 2 years. Alexander has been one of the best pass rushing interior defensive linemen in all of the FBS over the past couple of years, but he's also a good run stopper, and we'll showcase his numbers in the run game in just a second. But I did want to go back to what Mel Kiper had to say on Alexander to Miami, saying that Tyler Booker would have been a great fit. I actually disagree with that, by the way, and we can talk about that on a different day, but I don't think Tyler Booker is someone Miami should try to draft, even if he's available in the second round. But Arizona guard Jonas Savaianea was under consideration. He is a better fit. But the defensive line is also a weak spot. Alexander is quick enough and strong enough to hold up wherever Miami would line him up. And when you watch his tape, you really see the good blend between physicality and explosiveness, which makes him such an elite pass rusher and run stopper. You look at what he did in 2024 as a pass rusher. He was graded out as the 17th best interior defensive lineman with a 79.5 grade. And this is all with at least 50% snaps to the leader in interior defensive lineman pass rushing snaps, by the way. He had a win percentage rushing the passer, 9, or 12.9, but 9th best in the FBS. He also was 9th best in pressures of 25 in true pass sets, and then he also forced the quarterback to be hurried 8 times, which was 4th in the FBS. So a top 20 interior defensive lineman rushing the passer. but he was just as good in the run-stopping game for Toledo. He had the third best run defense grade at 90.3. He had 23 stops, which was 12th best. By the way, stops means how many times you stopped a run play to make it a negative play for the opposing offense. That percentage of stop plays, 7.9, ranked 25th in the FBS last season. So when you look at Darius Alexander, he has the good explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, physicality, he's got the size, the production. It's hard to envision me sitting there on the board at 48, assuming we took a corner in round one, whether it's Barron or Johnson, and not taking Alexander. There's some other good defensive linemen out there as well. Alfred Collins from Texas, TJ Sanders from South Carolina. There are options for Miami and the defensive line in round two. Wouldn't be mad with any of them, but Alexander is certainly a top option. Moving on to the third round pick, Mel Kiper had this selection again, and he went trenches once again, but offensively, going with William and Mary offensive lineman Charles Grant, who is rising up my board for the Dolphins as a third round possible pick. Mel Kiper on Grant going to Miami, saying that I really like watching Grant play. The former high school wrestler has great physicality and explosiveness. He could bounce inside and push Liam Eichenberg at guard, which I can't even fathom that statement being a thing this year. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. Liam can't be a guard. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. He could be a backup plan at left tackle now that Patrick Paul has taken over for recently retired Teron Armstead. And it's interesting looking at Charles Grant because I truly believe that even though he played offensive tackle in college, I think he's a guard, personally. He's 6'4", 311, so he's a little bit light for his position, which could make him a more ideal fit at the guard spot. And the reason why I think he's a good fit for the Dolphins is look at those numbers in the top right of this RAS. The 40-yard dash and the 20-yard split, the 10-yard split. 10-yard split wasn't as good getting off of the line of scrimmage, but when he got moving, he got moving. A 5.08 40, a 2.85-yard 20-yard dash, both ranking in the green, the great portion. And we know that the Dolphins need athletic offensive linemen to fit on Mike McDaniel's offensive line because his scheme is very zone heavy and you need to be agile and quick and able to get to the second level. I think Charles Grant, as a developmental guy, would be able to execute that based off his traits and his very solid, quick first step. He's a developmental guy. I do not think if the Dolphins drafted him at pick 98 that he would be able to step in and start at left guard right away. I just don't. And maybe Dolphins fans wouldn't want to take Grant in that scenario because they're looking for more of a starting caliber guy that could go year one. But this is someone who might develop and maybe play the second half of the year or just full-on be your projected starting left guard in next year's season. He's got the ability and athleticism and tools to play guard in the NFL. I think it suits him better than offensive tackle, and I'd like to see Miami take the shot on him. If he's there at 98, I would love that pick, assuming you didn't go offensive line with your first two selections. All right, so let's recap this three-round ESPN mock draft from Field Yates and Mel Kiper. Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, at the 13th pick. Darius Alexander, the defensive lineman from Toledo, at 48 overall. And then Charles Grant, the offensive lineman from William & Mary, at pick 98 in the third round. Grade this mock draft from ESPN, Mel Kiper and Field Yates, A, B, C, D, or F. Feel pretty good about this mock draft, to be honest. I know it's not the full 7 rounds, but if you told me after Friday night of the NFL draft that the first 3 picks that the Dolphins made were these 3 exactly, I would feel very good about how the draft is going. I would give it an A-. I would. You get the corner one of the future. You get a defensive lineman that can be the future of that group after Zach Sealer's contract runs out, but also work really well with him on the interior right away. You get an offensive lineman that can develop into a starting left guard, or hell, maybe he's just unbelievable in training camp and preseason and he starts at left guard. Either way, I think this is an ideal way for the Dolphins to get best players available at positions of need as well. So there's no way I could come out here and say this is anything less than an A-. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we will have you covered on everything Miami Dolphins revolving the draft. We will be going live for all 3 days of the NFL draft, and I'll have 2 more mock drafts out from me personally coming up soon, a perfect mock draft and a final mock draft. So hit that sub button to stay up to date with everything Miami Dolphins.